Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the pranava, Omkara, has been accepted as the direct, literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can easily chant the pranava, Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address such as, O my Lord. Just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself, so also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to the practice of self-realization by the mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranav, Omkar, within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present senses, it is necessary through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their mind on the person of the Absolute Truth. But one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the Absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. Om Gantimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shakshuran Malitam Yena Tasmai Shri Nurev Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashata Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you share something? Let me share a few words, and then I would love to get to what you would like to share, if that's okay. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the glories of Omkar, and we're hearing how wonderful it is, right? That this Omkar is so transcendental, even by it, somebody can control the mind, which is so agitated, right? The mind is always going hither and thither, this way and that way, and thinking of so many different things. But through this transcendental process of breathing in Omkar, Srila Prabhupada says it's a mechanical way that we can reach transcendental knowledge, which I really think is interesting way of putting it. It's actually really interesting. I was trying to think of this in like, how can I relate to this mechanical way of coming to transcendence? And I was thinking about in our chanting of Hare Krishna, we're often told to chant in a way that is, I'm forgetting the word, but give me a second here, is attentive. There we go. We're told to chant attentively. And so by chanting attentively, we can actually use the senses that we have to chant attentively, to try to get the senses and the mind and eventually the heart into transcendental activity to chant Hare Krishna. It's once, Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction that the tongue is used for two things, to vibrate and to taste, right? So Srila Prabhupada has wonderfully explained that we can use this tongue to chant, to vibrate the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and to, if it wants to taste, then we taste prasadam. So the tongue itself is not transcendental. However, if we use it in a way to serve Krishna, then it becomes transcendental. So we can look at this kind of as a mechanical way to start using the body to become transcendental. Similarly, we got the ears, right? We can hear the mantra. Think of either the Maha Mantra itself, or we can think of Krishna's lotus feet, or so many things. We can think of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. We can think these are using these material things in a way that's positive. It's often explained that this is using a thorn to take out a thorn, right? The material body has so many different problems, right? It's getting old. We have congestion problems. We're getting sick. So many people are getting sick, and this, I don't know what it is, but the sickness seems to like last for, it doesn't have a special name, but it lasts for like weeks and stuff. Have you noticed it? It's like, so many different issues with this material body that are causing us distress and hard times. However, and so therefore we can see it as a thorn. But we can use this thorn to get us out of the thorn of material existence. This whole material existence being a thorn, we say, okay, let's start using this body, let's start using this tongue, let's start using this ear, let's start using this mind, let's start using these to pluck out ourselves out of the material world. It's interesting that Srila Prabhupada, to me, it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada says that we're not trying to kill the mind. This is an interesting point, because I remember at some point I was kind of going through this mental thing myself where I was like, I could realize I was separated the mind, and I wasn't the mind. So my mind was telling me like, look, if we follow this process, you're going to kill me. And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, if we go back home, back to Godhead, I won't exist. And so I was having this like debate with my mind. It was really crazy. I was trying to ignore it, but it just kept on coming up. So Srila Prabhupada says, Srila Prabhupada says that the idea is not to the mind can be the greatest friend or the greatest enemy. So my mechanical way of trying to deal with this process was I started to talk to my mind and say, hey, well, you like to think, will, and feel, right? Okay, what better things can we think of that are going to give us the most happiness than thinking of Krishna, or willing for devotional service, or feeling some kind of connection with Krishna? So really we're both making out here. You're getting what you want, and I'm getting what I want, so let's work together. So we start working as a team. And so that's kind of like the body, right? The senses are its own player, the mind is its own player, and the ears are its own player. And if we, the soul, using our intelligence, can start to work with them and say, hey, let's work together on this process, we can see that they eventually start to work. We can see that they're adolescents, very childlike, and sometimes they'll be like want to fight us or want to go off and stuff like that. But if we can use some leadership, some self-leadership, then we can get these things to start working together for the right purpose. For our everybody wants to be happy, right? We're all chasing after some way or shape or form. So we can just, part of the thing I'm explaining to my body is like, look, we want to be happy. There's no better way to be happy. So let's work together. Unfortunately, Mataji left, but so I'll add a couple things. But first I would say questions or anything to add to that. I like it more when we get a little bit of discussion, because the wonderful thing about discussing is that somebody will say something, and in the heart will kind of be like, hey, that's interesting. And then you hear from somebody who else, and then your heart kind of like goes, oh yeah, I can relate with that stuff. So I really appreciate when people have their experiences or their comments or their realizations. Do you have something? Srila Prabhupada is giving instructions for different times, different places, and different circumstances. this is a certain level of Krishna consciousness that's very, very high, right? We have acharyas in our lineage that are like this, right? We have Jagannath Das Babaji, right? He's basically at this point, you know what I mean? Just enough. Also, we hear from about the 6 Goswamis and how they were like this, right? However, their friendship, just because it's not the friendship that we're trying to make because we're on our level, doesn't make that mean that they haven't made a friendship with their body to understand that, hey, if we work together, you know, this is for our best good, you know? So my understanding would be, or my thought is that, yes, they have made friends with the mind. They haven't. And a matter of fact, well, yes, at one point they have, some way that, and they've transcended this. Now that the mind is no longer a material thing, it's no longer seeing the dualism of friends and enemies, it is simply transcendental. So this is the position of an acharya, somebody who's self-realized, right? Is that these no longer dualities that our acharyas are giving us to get up to the platform of this. It's not. They've risen above it. So, for us, we can be honest with ourselves. Humility is the process of understanding where we're at and knowing our abilities, right? Somebody who's not using their abilities for Krishna because they're being humble is not being humble. This is the same side of one coin, is being puffed up or supposedly being too humble. It's actually the same thing. So our duty is to understand our abilities and understand where we're at, what level we're at, and use this in Krishna's service. And this is humility. So we must look at ourselves and say, where are we? Are we able to transcend the dualism of enemy and friend? Maybe, However, I understand that Srila Prabhupada is giving us these ways to understand how to use these things in transcendence. Is it helpful? Does it bring up any other questions or comments or thoughts in you? What do you think?
I like the point about honesty,
Mm.
that we should recognize the level we're at and work from there, and not try to be artificially renounced, or try to act at a level that's beyond what we're capable of,
Mm.
which will end up damaging our spiritual life. So that's the helpful point to recognize. And then also the point I like, that humility isn't neglecting or avoiding using our talents, but using them for Krishna.
Mm.
This good point struck me.
Matsuji, just before we hear that, does anybody have any comments or questions on that line of thought? And then we can hear no? Go ahead, Mataji. Let's hear what you wanted to share. Mataji, I'm sorry I can't hear you. You'll have to speak up just a little bit louder, please. I don't think they're working, unfortunately. Mm. 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 So yeah, this Omkar is as Srila Prabhupada says, a direct representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And so chanting it is purifying, and in a mechanical, in a way, we can use it to focus the mind. And I think it's also interesting in this point. Actually, you brought up something that I was thinking about too when I was hearing you say this. Is that how wonderful Omkar is that it can do this, that it can help us in this prayer. Srila Prabhupada is saying is, "O Lord, O Lord, O Lord, O Lord." How wonderful this Omkar is. And then we understand that within the Maha Mantra, this Omkar is even within the mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. O Lord, please engage me in your devotional service. So, I think it's interesting the point that Srila Prabhupada, I think that what I understand Srila Prabhupada is making is the greatness of Omkar is, in a way, by chanting the name of Krishna, not only are we addressing him, but we're actually engaging in a personal relationship. So if I just said, "O Brihat Mridanga, O Brihat Mridanga, O Brihat Mridanga, O Brihat Mridanga," you'd be like, yeah, like, okay, what? What's up? What's going on, So with Krishna is transcendental that we're addressing him, right? But the Maha Mantra goes even further in that we're saying, "Hey Krishna, hey Krishna, hey Krishna, engage me in your devotional service. Start interacting with me in a way. Let's have a personal relationship that I can serve you and work on making, in my way, in a way, hopefully to please you, So that was one of my thoughts when I read this too, is that, gosh, this Omkar is so nice that it's, like you said, it's addressing the Lord, it's purifying us, it's bringing us up to transcendental knowledge. And yet, the Maha Mantra is so wonderful that it's doing this and engaging us in a personal relationship with Krishna, which is unfathomable, to be honest with me, for me, that we can chant Hare Krishna, and by addressing Krishna this way, he says, okay. He not just says, "Hey, what's up?" He says, "What's up? Oh, let me start to work in your heart and tell you, what about our relationship? Let me guide you. Let me bring you spiritual masters so that he that is talking through spiritual books, that it will remind you of me. It will teach you of me. It will clean your heart. It will help you understand, our relationship more. Let me speak through other devotees so that when you have a question, that all of a sudden they bring up the answer. And you're like, wow, I just had that question. How amazing that this devotee was speaking about this, and I was just in it. That's Krishna in the heart. This is because of us chanting Hare Krishna that he's making these arrangements. Can you believe that? That Krishna is making arrangements for you to get to know him more, to answer your questions, to reveal the relationship you have with him, to encourage you to do more devotional service, encourage you to love him more. That's amazing. It's like, wow. Just by chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, yes, we chant Hare Krishna, and just by following the instructions of the spiritual master, and by chanting Hare Krishna, we're getting this amazing opportunity. Any other questions, comment? Mother Kunti, do you have anything?
I was going to say that if Srila Prabhupada was so keen on the Pranava Omkar, he would have said the International Society for Omkara Consciousness.
Wow.
But he didn't do that.
Mm.
He coined the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Mm.
So it's like Prabhu said, you can say, hello, Krishna, Krishna. Okay, but what are you saying?
Mm.
Krishna's like, yes.
Mm.
And if you're saying Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
you're actually calling his internal potency to engage with the divine service. So, right? Alani, what do you think?
Ah. Wow.
So, I have a question for her. Do you understand? Do you understand why Krishna is emphasizing the Hare Krishna?
I think this is really. I really appreciate what you're saying. Like, there's so many things that we can use to make our chanting better. Like we can do yoga. Some people like to work out before that. Some people like to walk. Some people, and so I really appreciate this that you're mentioning. I'm hearing that it's a way that it helps you, and you're saying, hey, this helps me chant Hare Krishna. Maybe it will help somebody else. And that's a very nice. I really appreciate that. Mm. Mm. Jai Shri Krishna. Haribo. Aditi? Yeah. I believe Jayapataka Maharaj, before he does anything, says Om Tat Sat, right? Right? I've heard this before. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Arjun, enlighten us, please. Anything to say? Any comments? It's okay if you don't. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize that we're ending a little bit early. 8:20. Um, I'm thinking if maybe I could speak a little bit more. But I in my heart, I don't really have anything coming up. And forgive me because I'm not very learned, so I have only a limited amount of Srimad Bhagavatam to speak. So I apologize. But I really appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. We become purified.